Hey everybody, it's Mark, DoctorDeadwax, and it's time for another video. This is going to be my response to Rodger Coleman's 1 Year in the VC contest. This is a contest where he's asking people to make a video where they talk about records and kind of the uh, seasonal attachment the records have for them. So, first, I'm having a Tom Green milk stout from Beau's All Natural Brewing, where they brew the beer naked, but they filter it for hairs. Cheers. And it's getting cool here. It's about 6 degrees tonight. That's 6 degrees Celsius. I have no idea what that is for those of you in the world that are still using a medieval method of telling temperature, but I'm wearing a flannel shirt because in the Deadwax den it's gets a little cool, and not wearing a robe. I guess I'm watching too many Jimmy Jameson videos. Anyway, Rodger, let's get on with this. So for me, honestly, I looked through 800 records. I pulled out about 6 or 7 records here that are just, most of them are huge stretches for me to attach. Seasonal stuff there's not much seasonal attachment to it. Nowadays, the only seasonal attachment I have to music is when I acquire it, which this is an example of that. This is Steve Young, Rock Salt and Nails. Hank Henry, To the Boy Alice, make more videos. We missed the hell out of you. Just one of the greatest guys. He showed this on a forum early spring this year on Facebook, and it has Steve Young wrote the song, and I never knew it until he did. He wrote the song Seven Bridges Road that the Eagles covered on their live album, which I loved as a kid. And I went to a record show, and actually they didn't have it there, but one of the dealers had it at home, so I was able to track it down within like 2 weeks of him showing it, which was amazing, and I got a fantastic deal on it. And it's just a great, some people call this outlaw country. It's the beginning of outlaw country, this record. In some ways it's a folk album, maybe a roots folk album. It's fantastic. So it has that kind of, that would be its seasonal attachment to it, is when I got it. Next is, this is one, I think in some ways this might have been a winter record the year it came out, but for me this is a summer record, in that something I used to crank when I was driving through the streets of Toronto with the CD player on in the car, in my early 20s. This and Joshua Tree always remind me of summer. Next, here's one that kind of, I don't know if the music's actually fall. Maybe it is, yeah. But this is Colin Walcott's Cloud Dance with John Abercrombie, Dave Holland, and Jacques DeJohnette. The late, great, brilliant sitar tabla player Colin Walcott. Maybe it's the music, maybe it's just this picture of clouds, although these clouds don't look like the clouds it reminds me of. But here in late October, early November, I never noticed it in the city, but out in the country, the clouds just whip through the skies at a high rate of speed, and the sun still has some warmth in it, but there's huge temperature swings, and this I don't know if it's fitting that it reminds me of that time of year, but it does. Next, I had a friend in high school. Her name is Barb. First time I ever went to visit anybody when they were babysitting, this was in the parents' collection, and we threw it on, and it totally blew my mind. It's probably early winter, probably January, February, or March. Just, I'm not sure I heard this record for another 3 or 4 years, but it certainly reminds me of that moment in time. She was one of the few people, I think, who influenced a lot of my musical taste at that age, like grade 9, grade 10. She was totally different than what my friends were listening to. So a lot of cool shit that way. A lot of stuff maybe people would consider pretty standard now. King Crimson, Pink Floyd, stuff like that. But next, another friend of mine, he turned me on to this. This is probably another winter record, yet this, I think, covers all seasons for me. I know I acquired it in the winter, but digitally at the time on CD. But this record covers all seasons. This is Stephen Reich's Music for 18 Musicians. This is a very kind of transcendental, zony, rhythmic, repetitive, tonal, almost, well, it's progressive. It's kind of post-rocky in a way, yet it's classical. Anyways, just a great record. Next is Jane Siberry's The Walking. This is Jane's masterpiece, in my opinion. Her tour de force of a record. Lots of songs on here remind me of summer, but this again is another winter record for me. The song, The Lobby, it's kind of a breakup song. Very dark, very powerful. I don't know why. It's just another winter record for me. Almost all of my records are, if they have a season attached to them, it's winter or fall. I have no idea why. Next, this is Pink Floyd's The Final Cut. I remember I bought this the day it came out. Very important record to me personally for a long period of my youth. I think this came out in grade 9. Might have been grade 10. But probably from like the age of 12 for about 20 years, I was kind of fixated on suicide. Kind of, I don't know, life was shit. Most of the time my world was pretty shitty, and I had a lot of depression, a lot of issues, and I was always fixated on suicide, but I never, you know, there's a line in here, I never had the nerve to make the final cut. And so even though this is kind of a dark record in many ways for me personally, it's also a very uplifting record, and this reminds me of that. Even though this was an all-year record for me, this reminds me most of the darkest depths of winter, with depression, with seasonal affective disorder and shit piled on top of it. The really midwinter blues, the complete blackest times. Thankfully, in my early 30s, kind of the trigger for that period of my life ended, and but for a long period of time, I was doing anything to get away from any sort of reality. So anyway, so that's, you know, so that's like a dark winter record again. And this one, just to not end it on that one, and something more recent. This one reminds me, this is Sufjan Stevens, Come On, Feel the Illinois. Reminds me of Mother's Day, even though it has something to do with my mother. But Mother's Day weekend, my wife and I were away one year up in a place called Collingwood in Ontario, and she was in I remember she was in Loccatan buying some sort of overpriced hand cream, and I was listening to CBC, and they played this, like a song off of this, and it was the first time I'd ever heard it, and it totally blew my mind. And so I'll always remember that spring weekend because of this. And it, you know, to me, this is one of the top 10 albums of the past decade for sure. Maybe top 3. This is a fucking masterpiece. So, you know, who else can sing a song about a serial killer and make it beautiful? So those are my seasonal records. Rodger, not very varied. It's all kind of the same season, but again, great channel. Great to have you here. You know, I very rarely miss one of your videos. I think you're a huge addition to the community. I've really enjoyed your record that you just released. I really enjoyed the classy way that you did all of that. Just totally represents the kind of guy you are. And anyway, thanks for being here, Rodger. Have a great day, everybody. Keep the record spinning.